tonight. Bridge closed off for safety reasons. Russian sent packing after overstaying his welcome. And road contractor sorts out work safety issues. Very good evening. A major infrastructure link and Waitway Loko in Tamavo has been closed off by the Fiji Roads Authority. This is Wunindilo Bridge, a major link for hundreds of people living in the area. All vehicle access is now stopped. The FRA says the steel beams of the bridge are severely corroded. These shots clearly show the vulnerability of the beams. There are now plans to put in place propping mechanisms to allow vehicles to pass through. However, this is expected to take at least 3 days. A new bridge is expected to be constructed next to the current structure. A Russian national has been deported from Fiji. The man, who has been in the country since August 2013, was put on board a Korean Air flight yesterday morning. This latest deportation case has prompted the Immigration Department to warn the local community to remain vigilant of such cases. Apisolome Rambo with that story.
The Russian national arrived here in August last year, and while his visa was valid, the amount of money he had on him raised suspicions. That, coupled with the nature of his stay in the country.
We received a call from the community police in Kandavo, stating that these Russian nationals have been reported by some villages. He's been moving from one village to the other, to the next, but he's been camping out in the bushes, and he was identified by the villagers. To the police called us, and we sent an officer to Kandavo from our compliance team, who went in and escorted this gentleman back.
During detention, the department was able to determine the nature of his visit and stay here. However, the Russian man disagreed with the information.
And he lied to the officials upon being questioned. He mentioned that he came on a yacht, the name Santa Barbara, that the yacht has left. But we've seen in the system that there's no such yacht that has arrived in the country under that name.
Vuniwanga also reminded locals to be cautious. Locals, he said, needed to be vigilant when interacting with foreign nationals.
For us locals, we have this tendency to appreciate and accept foreigners as they come into our and to mingle with the local community. What we need to know as those that are leading these communities or the villages, even the Turanikoros, we can even give a call to immigration and advise immigration. We've got a foreigner here. We want to know whether his status is legal or not.
The Russian embassy in Canberra provided the man's travel documents, while the government of Fiji paid his airfare. Apisolome Rambo, Fiji One News.
Meanwhile, the costs related to dealing with such deportation cases is proving to be a challenge for the Immigration Department. Director Nemani Vuniwanga says this is something they've had to bear when sorting out foreigners staying here illegally.
The Immigration Department deals with 50 to 60 removal cases every year. According to Vuniwanga, overstaying without proper documentation is becoming a prevalent issue. A group is currently detained for this exact reason.
An international who was apprehended or detained in Rakiraki is currently in our detention center, awaiting all the other final details for him to be removed.
It's not a new issue, but it's one that doesn't seem to go away. Included in this group are some of our fellow Pacific Islanders.
In the last month, on the 19th, we removed a Tuvaluan and who had overstayed his permit in the country.
The deportation process is applied across the board, irrespective of the status of any individual. It becomes effective once immigration laws are breached.
A Mexican lady who had spent 5 years, 4 months in prison, Miss Graciela, she was convicted of carrying drugs with her when she arrived into the country. She had already spent 5 years and 4 months.
For some of these deportation orders, the government of Fiji pays the full cost of sending these foreign nationals back home. An allocation of $47,000 is set aside in their budget for this purpose.
For that lady, the state had to pay a total of $5,000 more than $5,000 for her airfare back to Mexico, because she's spent 5 years, 4 months in the country. She doesn't have a return ticket. She doesn't have any money with her.
The allocated amount is barely enough to cover deportation cases, and those with work permits often pay their fares. Apisalome Rambo, Fiji One News.
While road safety has up until now involved mostly pedestrians and motorists, another category of road users has remained largely unnoticed. Ironically, that includes road workers and contractors responsible for the upgrading of our roads. The Fiji Roads Authority says one of their biggest concerns now is the safety of their road workers, exposed not just to the elements, but also to other irresponsible road users out there.
It was tools down, machinery and equipment rested, and back to the drawing board for all 200 road construction workers of Fulton Hogan Highways in the Central Division today. Safety is the #1 priority for these men and women. Working on the roads each day is always a risk, and the country's bad track record on road accidents certainly does not make things any easier.
We know from historical records that the first 2 or 3, 4 weeks back of the start of a new year is the staff are at a higher risk for safety incidences. So a first day back training program is about bringing them back together, focusing them on the things that are important to us as a business, and bringing that safety awareness right back to the forefront of their thinking.
Last year, 97 safety incidents were recorded. That's 1 every 4 days. 28 of these were high-risk incidents and 9 people were seriously injured. Peter Watts says this number will have to be reduced this year.
Our objective is to train and continue training so that we minimise our exposure to risk and injury to both our staff and the public on the roads travelling through our sites.
One of the biggest threats to the safety of these road construction workers are road users. And workers at Fulton Hogan Highways are pleading with members of the public to be cautious.
Can you respect our work sites? We put a lot of effort into creating awareness of work. There's a lot more signage, there's a lot more cones, there's a lot more visibility of the work that happens. We just ask the public if they can respect some of those sites, and the slower they go through them, the safer they're going to be and the safer our staff are going to be.
The aim for these men and women this year is clear: to increase their productivity and minimize workplace safety incidents. Myron Williams, Fiji One News.
After their refresher awareness session on safety, it will be back to the roads for the staff of Fulton Hogan Highways. General Manager Peter Watts says they still have to work to complete from last year. Topping that list is Harris Road in the capital city. Once that is completed, they will then move on to this year's projects.
We've got an extensive program in place for 214, working alongside FRA and MWH, and it's just get right back into it. We've a couple of things we haven't quite finished from last year, tidy those up and get on with the routine maintenance for 214.
And having taken on the project left behind by Blacktop after they went into receivership last year, Fulton Hogan Highways admits that a lot has to be done. However, they are optimistic of the task at hand.
The North has some challenges, and we've got to start from scratch and build our team up there, build our culture, build our safety, and get on with the work.
Water supply to areas within the Suva-Nosori corridor have been caused by several problems, including low water levels at the reservoirs. And while the Water Authority of Fiji has been able to normalise supply in certain areas, full restoration can take at least a week. As Salitesh Dutt reports, the authority says it will continue to cut water to affected areas.
It wasn't exactly the start of the year that residents along Suva-Nosori corridor and Water Authority of Fiji anticipated. Majority of the area celebrated New Year without water, as an increase in demand for water and aging infrastructure led to disruptions, so says the Water Authority of Fiji.
The weather, we haven't had real decent rain in the last couple of weeks. So that is attributed to these certain supply disruptions and also low water pressures, because we really need to get water to people, and unfortunately by doing that some people will suffer the low pressure problem.
Ravai says trucks carted water to affected areas after residents notified the authority. Water cutting alone cost WEF an average of $500,000 each year during such situations.
We also do, what we do is we shift the water supply to certain zones at certain times of the day, and then we have to reverse that operation again. when we do reversing, then, this affecting certain areas, we have to flush out the system using fire hydrants and air valves, with some of which we want to replace as well.
The authority today also refuted claims of the residents saying enough notices were dished out prior to the disruptions.
So we have a team that is focused on disseminating this information to the public. And so we ensure that the public is informed. Now, if people do not turn on the radio or read the papers, that's beyond our control.
Ravai says WEF is working on restoring normal supply by next week. Halitesh Dutt, Fiji One News.
Parents have been urged to put government's free education program for primary and secondary schools to good use. They've also been urged to ensure their children are sent to school. To drive home the message, the Permanent Secretary for Education is currently in the Western Division meeting with school officials before the first term starts in less than 2 weeks.
Starting well ahead of time before the busy schedule of the first school term rolls out in the coming weeks. This is what senior Ministry of Education officials are doing as Fiji braces for another school year.
Main purpose of this visit is that we would want to go and meet the district staff in each of the office, look at the staffing of schools, look at the school management functions. We also want to look at all the government schools because from 2014 the government school will be getting tuition-free grants. I would want to meet the board of governors of each of the schools and brief them about this because this is something new for them.
Lal has also encouraged parents to make good use of the year of free education for primary and secondary school students.
Now we are providing textbooks, we are providing the bus fares, boat fares and all this. The parents have to buy uniform, the exercise books and shoes and bags. So please shop wisely at this time, but I would ask them to make sure that all children are brought to school. We have schools built all over the country, so no one should be left out.
The visit is also to harness service delivery not only for mainstream ministry workers but for school managers, treasurers and administrators on ways to lift their service to requirements set by government.
We want more accountability, we want people to be very transparent and we want them to use the money for the right purpose. We have set some conditions and all that, so we have carried out the necessary briefing and we have carried out the training of how to keep the records, how to write out checks and so forth, how to get accounts done and auditing of those.
Last but hardly the least, in this great venture, government has poured over $500 million into its budget allocation for the year. Lal has also called on the teachers to turn up on day one, ready to lift their performance to another level this year. Bulletin, Fiji One News.
Ahead in the news, multi-million-dollar sugar project in the north to boost production. And impersonators worry road regulators. Hello again. A power blackout experienced around Vitilevu early yesterday morning was caused by a technical problem to one of the generators at the Kinoya power station. In a statement today, the Fiji Electricity Authority says that after the Kinoya generator tripped, its load was transferred to the Wailoa power station, which was already running above 85% capacity. This in turn tripped all 4 generators at the Wailoa power station and caused the blackout throughout Vitilevu. Power supply here in the Central Division has been normalized through the Wailoa, Nantaribatu and Kinoya generators. Supply to the Western Division normalized this morning with the help of diesel generators in Nandi and Singatoka. FEA Chief Executive Hasmukh Patel says the authority has implemented strategies to minimize such outages. The proposed $29 million sugar refinery project in Lambasa will add value to our current sugar market when dealing with the rest of the world. It comes as the sugar industry and government look at areas to tap into in order to get the project up and running in the not-too-distant future.
Yesterday, sugar industry stakeholders were meeting with potential Chinese investors on ways our sugar can be open to other international markets and not just relying on the European Union as our main sugar buyer. But as we try and tap into other markets, the executive chairman of the FSC says the perfect launchpad for our industry is seriously making the proposed refinery mill happen.
If you look at the refinery, it's basically adding value to our raw sugar. If you look at where the raw sugar sits and where the refinery sits, the difference in terms of Fijian dollars could be as much as $300 to $400 per ton. So if it's $300 or $400 that someone else is getting, I'd rather try and realize that for us here in Fiji.
But dealing with what we have before us at the moment, Khan says riding on the wave of impressive growth from 2012 and 2013 is what we can hold on to as the interest from the outside markets begin to build.
There's two things that's come to mind. One, obviously, our maintenance of our mills and making sure that our mills are well prepared for the coming season. And secondly, with the help of government, the $8.4 million that they've put forward, we will work very closely with the farmers to try and improve our volumes. We may not get it this season, but at least we know for the future it's looking good.
While all looks promising, at the end of the day, Khan says more works need to be done for Fiji to achieve its goal of producing 5 million tons of sugar by the year 2020.
In Chinese investors that has come in and had discussions with us, yeah, it looks quite good at the moment. We still got a lot of work to do, and if it works out for both parties, I think it'll be great for the industry.
Bulletin, Fiji One News.
The interest of Chinese entities in our sugar industry has been received quite positively by stakeholders. The Fiji Sugar Corporation says the industry continues to expand, especially with growing potential at the international market. Executive Chairman and CEO Abdul Khan says the future is certainly looking brighter this year.
I think it's looking quite promising. If you look at some of the strategies that we put in place with the help of government, with the reform that they had put in place, building the refinery, the ethanol plant, the cogeneration plant, and moving forward with improving on our mill and sugar extraction, I think it'll be a challenging year, but a good year as well.
The FSC has laid out the groundwork to ensure growth. Khan says the outcome of mill production is indicative of what can be expected this year.
We processed about 1.7 or 1.75 odd million tons of sugarcane, and that was even after the cyclone that we had. Hopefully we're not going to get that kind of clement weather this year. So we should be looking at 2 million or just over 2 million tons of sugarcane, which means that our forecast of around about 200,000 to 210,000 tons of raw sugar, we should be able to achieve that.
Students looking to land a scholarship for tertiary studies should not be disheartened if they don't meet the criteria set out in the National Topper Scheme. As Ravaifa for All reports, the government has set aside a substantial amount of money to cater for those wanting to go for higher education.
It's that time of the year again when many are scrambling for scholarships offered for studies at tertiary institutions. But for those whose marks do not meet the National Topper Scheme, do not fret as other options are available.
For those who do not qualify for the national toppers, that meaning that those who have completed Form 7 and foundation studies and they score below 300, they have an opportunity to apply for the tertiary loan scheme.
TELS will only cover tuition fees, which makes up majority of the fees for tertiary studies. But like every loan, it will have to be paid back. So far, there have been more than 1,000 applicants received for TELS. Those that have applied to various schemes last year do not need to reapply.
Those students who have applied to the PSC scholarships, multi-ethnic and Itoke scholarships towards the end of last year, they do not need to reapply, as we have received their applications and we will be processing it in the next couple of weeks.
Overseas applications have also been taken into account. If you have not applied, there is still chance to do so.
The closing date will be according to those various qualifying institutions' deadline for fee payment and for enrollment.
With $52.5 million allocated for TELS alone, government wants to ensure that everyone has access to tertiary education. Ravaiva for all, Fiji One News.
The body of a 4-year-old girl was retrieved from the Nakama River in Lambasa yesterday. Police say the girl was last seen swimming with her family. A search was conducted after her father noticed she was missing. Her body was found floating 80 meters from where they were swimming. Police continue to plead with parents and guardians to monitor their children, especially near waterways. The number of people impersonating Land Transport Authority officials continues to be a major worry for the organisation, especially when it involves obtaining money. One of the most recent cases involves the scamming of between $700 to $1,000 for the issuing of a driver's license costing not more than $14.
The Land Transport Authority reiterated today that it is the sole licensing issuing authority. It says that members of the public should not get involved with any third party claiming to act on their behalf. This follows complaints that some individuals have been posing as LTA officers.
Due to their illegal ways of conducting their business, we've actually stopped, in total, the use of a third party or people utilizing or making use of other people to come in and conduct their business on their behalf.
LTA maintains that any dealings done outside their office premises is illegal and there is no network existing to offer such assistance.
We would like to stress to the members of the public that there is no network that exists, concerning some third-party people. We work within the confines of the law and within the perimeters of how we conduct our business, which is legal, and that is what we want to stress to the members of the public.
The LTA says that warning signals should go off as soon as requests for large sums of money are made in order to secure a license.
Why spend so much money, $700, $1,000, for a business, for a license which is only $14, And that's the message we would like to give or stress to the members of the public, to be very, very cautious with the type of people that may approach you, the type of people that may want to offer their service.
Driving license only costs $14. Drew Bukelangi, Fiji One News.
The Fiji National University has today announced the introduction of 2 major degree courses that will be available in their main campus in Nasinu from as early as this month. That means for the first time an executive MBA degree and a law degree will be taught at FNU this year.
The Fiji National University has been designed to meet the needs of the business sector. Following consultation with the relevant stakeholders, the undergraduate courses are tailor-made for those holding managerial posts. It's aimed at grooming them for top executive positions.
The executive MBA degree targets those people in the industry who have got significant managerial experience but requires formal training in areas outside the primary expertise. So it is in this regard that we have now launched a new executive MBA degree which we will offer from in January 20th, trimester 1, out of Nasinu campus in the evening for people who are in the industry. This is not meant for school leavers, this is meant for people who are in the industry.
The objective is to provide the best in terms of experienced trainers.
CEOs who knows how to manage risk, CEOs who knows what are the basic laws of the country that they need to understand to run a business, CEOs who have IT expertise, CEOs who will understand about supply chain management, CEOs who will have thorough knowledge about finance and accounting and reporting. So it is in this regard that we are now ready to offer this program.
And for the first time, law degrees courses will also be offered at FNU. They've teamed up with the University of London to provide the best learning opportunities for those enrolled in the courses.
Students will have a choice. If they want to obtain a FNU LLB degree, they can do so. If they want to obtain a University of London law degree, they can do that. But the lectures will be provided by the FNU Law School. We have got people who've got litigation background, who have got masters and PhD in law to teach in this program.
The courses will only be offered at the Nasinu campus. Drew Bukelangi, Fiji One News.
We have more news still to come after the break. Stay with us. Pacific Islands News Association hopes to use its upcoming third PINA Summit to re-engage with the media organizations of the French territories. And that's one of the reasons PINA has decided to hold the third Pacific Media Summit in New Caledonia next month. The week-long summit will thresh out issues such as media freedom and media development in the region. With a few regional countries heading to the polls this year, Fiji included, the summit will also focus on the use of social networking tools.
As we build up to the September elections here in Fiji, there'll be a lot of use of social media tools. I mean, political parties are already on Facebook or Twitter, and the need for our journalists to be aware of that this is available, these tools are already available.
The last summit was held here in Fiji 2 years ago. However, the resolutions that came out of that summit have not been implemented yet.
One of the problems that PINA has been going through this past decade is securing donor assistance to help us implement a lot of these resolutions that come out of these summits every 2 years.
Telecom New Zealand's interest in the Cook Islands' biggest phone and internet phone provider could soon be bought out by mobile operator Digicel. Back News reports that this follows Telecom New Zealand's recent announcement that it was thinking about selling its 60% stake in Telecom Cook Islands. Cook Islands Finance Minister Mark Brown has already told local media that Digicel Pacific was looking into buying the New Zealand company's interest. This is not the first time for Digicel to show interest. Back in 2009, Digicel made a bid of around $20 million to buy TCI. The Cook Islands government owns the remainder of TCI and have been operating it as a joint venture since 1991. And remember, you can view tonight's Fiji One News Bulletin on our website. That's at www.fijione.tv. You can also watch previous news bulletins as well as our current affairs, business and sports shows. In our business news tonight, Amalgamated Telecom Holdings has appointed George Samisoni as Acting Chief Executive Officer for Fintel. Samisoni is currently Manager Commercial Sales and Marketing. He steps into the post after the sudden departure of Iwani Koribuki as CEO. Samisoni comes with an extensive 34-year background in systems and network engineering with Fintel. We go to sports now with Drew, and Fiji 7's coach still not paid.
Indeed, Vili. Ben Ryan is living off his savings since starting in October. That's coming up. Also in sport, Roy Krishna makes historic move to A-League. And Fiji Sports Council now a boxing promoter.